Well, thank you, Claire, for this wonderful start to our presentation. And thank you, everybody, for joining us to this wonderful JumpStart session on job search for international students. Let us begin with the immigration portion of our presentation. The agenda for today will include on-campus and off-campus employment options, which I will present. And then my colleague, Debbie, will talk to you more about job search and networking. Okay, so employment eligibility timeline. As an F1 student, you may be wondering what a timeline can look like for you as you progress with your studies at GMU. So as an F1 student, you can work on campus as soon as you begin your degree. All you need is to register your immigration record and have an I-20 and be studying at GMU. So for off-campus options, you may need to wait a while. And as you can see through this map, there are multiple types of off-campus employment options, which we will cover today: curricular practical training and optional practical training. Okay, a little bit more about on-campus employment. As I said, you're eligible to work on campus as long as you are a student with George Mason University. As a student, you can work at any of our campus locations as long as you work under 20 hours a week during spring and fall semesters, but you can work over 20 hours, which is full-time, during all your vacation periods. It can be in the summer, winter break, even during the small spring break that we have. You can also work during third-party businesses that are located on our Mason campuses, which are like the bank, bookstore, food services. However, we do understand that during COVID right now, those may be very limited positions. You can get a social security number to work on campus. And here are some points on how to pursue that and what steps you need to take to get a social security number. And as you can see, it involves a number of visits, not only to the Social Security office that will issue your Social Security number, you also will need to complete paperwork with OIPS, like the on-campus employment certification form that we will sign. And then you will also need to visit the hiring office, which for somebody who got a GRA GTA you may need to contact the International Tax to complete your I-9, or if you're working for a third-party business like a bookstore at GMU, you may need to work with your supervisor to complete that I-9 with them. Working remotely, or if you are working overseas currently for George Mason University, please work with your department to notify them of your plan to do so. This may affect your taxes and also compliance. What does that mean? Students who may be doing research for George Mason University and may be doing it from overseas, using data or using equipment such as laptops. There's an office on campus called Office of Export Compliance and Secure Research that needs to be notified of what kind of work you're doing. Okay, so that is for on campus. Now a little bit more about off-campus work, which it can be much more fascinating for students. So there are a number of types of curricular practical training, which is the first type of off-campus work that I'm going to talk to you today. CPT, as we call it, is a type of work authorization provided to F1 students who want to complete a practical training which is part of their curriculum. So the types of CPT that we offer currently is an internship practicum CPT, a thesis dissertation CPT, or in some rare occasions, we do authorize CPT for a required training that does not have an internship course attached to it, but in the catalog, there is a specific internship to be completed. Okay, let's go over some eligibility to qualify for CPT. So you need to be a full-time student in the United States in a valid non-immigrant status for at least one full academic year, which is fall and spring. And as a note, semesters that you have spent in non-degree status or outside the United States do not qualify for that full one academic year requirement. Also, you must be maintaining F1 status for at least one full academic semester. You also must have declared a major. You must complete at least one academic semester at Mason. You have to have a good GPA, which is 2.0 for undergraduates or 3.0 for graduates. We will accept a 2.33 for law students. And also be enrolled in full course of study if you are engaging in CPT during fall or spring, and in summer if it's your last semester. A little bit more about the different types of CPT that we offer. So as I mentioned earlier, internship practicum CPT is one of the options that you can select from. So for this type, students must enroll in a program that offers a course, like an internship practicum course for credit. This course must be at least 1 credit of an internship practicum course during the time, and you must be enrolled in that course during the time that you're pursuing the internship off campus. We, as an office, do not help you to complete any required paperwork to apply for the course. That's something that you will need to discuss with your department, what courses are available and how to register for such a course. Also, since it is a course that you need to complete in order to do the internship off campus, you need to be aware that since you're registered for a course, you need to complete that as a subject successfully. If you fail that course and receive a fail grade or drop that course, and as a result of that, you're under-enrolled, or your grades put you in a violation of your student status, you may lose your immigration status as a result. So you have to keep up your GPA. You have to continue maintaining your immigration status by keeping the minimum credit requirement because you are registered for these courses. We also highly encourage you to talk to us and confirm your internships before the start of the semester, and that way you have everything lined up before your internship starts and you have your I-20 ready to go to begin work. So required documents for this process. We have an online YPS CPT application that you will complete. You will also need to receive an offer letter from the employer that wants to hire you for that internship. And of course, the proof of enrollment for the internship practicum course. Okay, so the second type of CPT that we offer is an internship dissertation CPT. This is for master's or PhD students who enroll only in 799 or 999 and have completed everything but thesis and dissertation. Therefore, we can give them work authorization to pursue an internship or work off campus to continue their dissertation. This must be required for students to complete their thesis and dissertation. So the work that you're doing must be required for your thesis and dissertation. If the training opportunity is not required to complete, you're not eligible for this type of CPT. You may do OPT if you're not eligible to do CPT at this point. Master's and PhD students enrolling in 998 and 998 must enroll in internship practicum course, which is the previous one I discussed, to apply for CPT because you're not in dissertation or thesis credits yet. So the requirement for this type of CPT is that you must be enrolling in the 799 and 999 in order to apply for this type of work authorization. You also must complete the OIPS CPT application online. You must submit an offer letter for the employer that you're going to be working with, proof of enrollment for 799 and 999, and also a letter from your advisor, which will state that you will need this training experience to complete the thesis or dissertation. And they also will need to specify how this training will be used to help you with your thesis and dissertation completion. Okay, this final option for CPT is the required training with no internship course. So as I said, this is an option for students whose catalog in George Mason catalog requires them to complete an internship, but that does not necessarily offer a course for it. For such degrees, we have this option. This is not for students who enroll in 799 or 999. You may use the previous option for that. For students who do have an internship course to complete to complete their degree, but there is no actual course to register for, should also complete the CPT application, should also provide us with an offer letter, and submit an entry from the George Mason University catalog detailing the required training experience instead of the course registration, since as I'm describing, there's no registration course requirement or listed on the catalog, excuse me. Okay, so what are the authorization limitations? We do not limit the number of CPTs a student may apply for, as long as you're able to register for a Mason credit that allows you to continue to enroll for an internship course, and therefore the internship course requires you to do an internship off campus. And of course, you need to be registered for at least 1 credit. We do not accept 0 credit registration. So the only limit we will impose is that you do 3 consecutive trainings with the same organizations with the same organization for CPT. So that's our limit. If you do CPT with the same company 3 times, we will say no for the 4th time. Because we have recently changed our CPT form, we no longer require for you to submit proof of increased duties to be authorized for CPT to continue training with the organization. Okay, authorization dates. deadlines. Because we serve thousands of international students and processing times for CPT may take 7 to 10 business days, please take that into consideration and plan accordingly. You may submit a fully completed CPT application form to IPS a minimum of 2 weeks before the desired training start date, or even earlier if you have everything available to you. Once you are eligible for CPT, you may apply at any time, but you should meet with an advisor to discuss your specific situation. What does that mean? Is that if you have questions about a CPT, please meet with us to discuss them. There is a pre-approval process that you all will go through. Therefore, discuss your certain situation with the company with us. We will pre-approve you. That way you know you're eligible for CPT, especially if you're registering for a course this semester. And then once you have all the documents, the earlier you apply, the better. But as long as you're registered for a course, there's no deadline. We will give you work authorization if you have all the required documents. Okay, so some of you may want to combine CPT, which is work authorization off campus, with on-campus work. So at this point, you may participate in both on-campus employment and CPT simultaneously, because CPT is directly fulfilling an academic course requirement and may or may not be paid position. So because you're registered for a course, you could potentially work on campus and do CPT at the same time. You should notify your on-campus employer that that you're going to be participating in CPT for academic credit. Now, for those of you who have graduate assistantships from the Office of the Provost, your contract specifically says that you should not accept outside employment. Therefore, for assistantships that are 20 hours per week, full-time assistantships, CPT may not be authorized. For assistantships that are 10 hours per week, part-time, CPT may be authorized up to 20 hours per week, no more than that. So please contact the Provost office for further clarification on combining, if you want to combine your internship and you want to do additional work as a graduate assistant. Remote work. Like with on-campus, the same thing with off-campus. Remote work is allowed, and a big part of it is because of COVID. Normally, we do not allow remote work as with such flexibility. However, the current circumstances, because we all have to work from home to keep healthy and protect ourselves and our families and those around us. So remote work is allowed during CPT at the moment. That doesn't mean that it will always be allowed, but it is allowed for fall 2020. We just want to make sure that the training opportunity meets the course requirements and the student is being supervised by the instructor who's teaching the course, the internship course. Student, please remember that you must meet the required number of on-campus courses to maintain your status. So that's in addition to your CPT. So for fall 2020, students who are continuing their studies You currently do not need to register for any face-to-face courses. You have been approved to study completely online. However, for fall 2021, initial students who just arrived and it's their first time studying in a US institution at George Mason University need to register for at least one face-to-face course or a hybrid. Okay, so now applying for CPT. There are a few phases that you're gonna go through before you receive the final work authorization. So first, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you're gonna go through a pre-approval phase. So once you receive an offer from your training organization, from your company, please meet with me or another F1 advisor to get CPT pre-approval, which is a process that you'll have to go through so we make sure that you fulfill the basic requirements that I shared with you in the beginning of this presentation, that you've been maintaining your status, that you have the good GPA, that you have been a student here for a while, all these things. So once an F1 advisor goes through their list and makes sure that you qualify for CPT for this semester, they will pre-approve you and they will send you an email. Phase 2, complete CPT application online. So our CPT application is completely online, and therefore you will need to include information for your academic advisor, as well as the company's information, and they will receive emails to sign your application. Once your application is signed, we will receive that complete application for us to issue you the I-20. Only after you receive your I-20, you're authorized to begin work. All right, so moving on to OPT, optional practical training. This is another option for students who want to work off campus. OPT is a 1-year work authorization to be used to work in your field of study at your level of study. You have 1 year of OPT at each higher degree level. So you will get you can get authorized for OPT for your bachelor's, master's, and PhD levels. OIPS only recommends you for OPT, but it is the U.S. Immigration Services, USCIS, that authorizes this benefit. And after authorizing it, you will receive an EAD card, like you can see the sample on the screen. And once you have that EAD card, you may work in the United States for the duration of the time that it's given, which is 1 year. There is an application window to the government to apply for OPT. Their processing times vary, but the average is still 90 days. I know that due to COVID, students are very concerned about the government taking extra time. Sometimes it is the case, but we never know if it's COVID or other things that they have to work on. But still, the average has still been 90 days. The rule for the application is that the earliest you can apply is 90 days before your degree completion. The latest you can apply is 60 days after the day of exams, which is your completion date. Here's some examples for fall 2020 completion dates. So the fall 2020 completion date, which is the end of exams, will be December 16, 2020. Therefore, the earliest UCIS will accept the OPT application will be September 17th, 2020. Sorry, there's a typo there. And the latest date USCIS will accept the OPT application is February 14th, 2021, which is 60 days after the December end of exams completion date. If you are not graduating this fall and you want to know about our future dates, like the spring 2021, you can go to this website and check the spring 2021 dates. And we are constantly working on updating, spring, summer, and fall deadlines on our website. So, also an important thing to remember about OPT, as I said, OIPS will recommend you, whereas USCIS actually issues you the AED, right? So we recommend you with the form of an I-20. That I-20 is only valid for 30 days, which means that once an I-20 is issued for you to apply for OPT, that I-20 needs to reach to UCIS with all the documents that they need within 30 days of us issuing it. Okay, so another important thing to remember when it comes to OPT, when can you actually begin work, or what's the date that, that you can select to begin work? Of course, you can begin work only when UCIS actually approves you to begin work, but there are dates that you actually can pick from to tell them that you wish to begin work. So the start date can range between 1 day to 60 days after your completion of your degree requirements. So after the end of exams. So in the end date, it's easy. It's 1 year later. So for fall 2020, the completion date is December 16th, 2020. The earliest day you can work will be the day after you complete your degree, which is December 17th, 2020. If you selected that day, your end date would be December 16th, 2021. And the latest date you can select to begin work is February 14th, 2021, which is 60 days after you complete your degree requirements. Now, I want you to be aware that USCIS processing times vary. And as we mentioned, it may take 90 days for them to process. It may take less, but sometimes it does take more. So if you are applying in October and you select December, you may still get approved. However, if you're applying in December and you want the December start date, odds are you will not get that start date, which means that USCIS will adjust that date and give you a later date. The latest date they can give you to begin work is February 14th, 2021, because it's 60 days after you completed your degree. So if you're applying late, select a later start date. Also important things to remember, because if you once you graduate, you're still in F1 visa status while you're an OPT, which means that you still need to obey F1 rules and regulations. After you graduate, you have to maintain your status on OPT. Your status is going to be contingent upon employment in your field of study. While on OPT, you will receive 90 days of unemployment, and within those 90 days, you need to report to OIPS where you work. You also may travel on OPT. These are the documents that you'll need to use to re-enter the United States, which is an I-20 with a valid travel signature, a passport, a visa, an EAD card, and hopefully an offer letter. After your OPT ends, you have a 60 days grace period, at which point you cannot work, but your CVS record will remain active. The only way you could continue working is for those of you who are STEM OPT eligible, and we can discuss that at a different workshop. We won't have time for that today, but for those of you who are STEM extension eligible, you will be able to continue working, but you have to timely file for a STEM extension at that point. But you have your 60 days grace period. If you are a STEM eligible student, please schedule an appointment, come to one of my workshops to talk about STEM extensions. Or if your employer files for H-1B, you'll be able to continue and stay in the United States during that time. All right, so before I let you go with all this information, there are gonna be upcoming events. We advertise these events through our website. We also have a newsletter that our programming team sends, distributes information through. You will also be receiving blast emails through oips@gmu.edu. The future virtual workshop topics that we are scheduled to have typically include information on CPT, OPT, STEM OPT. We also hold immigration workshops on important information or regulations that may be changing. Mary Claire mentioned in the beginning that this session is recorded. However, immigration regulations is always changing. Therefore, come to our sessions to make sure that you have the most current and updated information. We also hold frequent presentations at least once or twice a semester where immigration law groups come to our campus, and currently, of course, virtually, and they talk about immigration issues or different types of employment visas, such as H-1B, permanent green cards, and applications that an employer can sponsor you, or other things that may be an interest of you. So it would be interesting if you receive it as a blast. If you wanted to attend a session hosted by Immigration Law Group, it is good for you to attend. Okay, so without further ado, I'll stop sharing, but I want to introduce to you my wonderful colleague from Career Services, Debbie Zuiker, who's going to talk to you a bit more about career services and job searches and networking, and she'll let you know how career services works. Take it away, Debbie.
Debbie, you're on mute.
All right, there we go. All buttons in progress now. So my name is Debbie Zuiker, and I'm the on-campus student employment specialist, and I work in career services. I am going to talk to you today about career services in general and the job search. But if you need to make an appointment with me regarding on-campus employment, I'm always happy to meet with you. by phone or Zoom or in person. I'm in on Mondays. Okay, so let's get started here. So just a little bit of information about University Career Services. We are a centralized career center on campus, and we have an industry-focused approach serving our students and our employers. Our staff is composed of industry advisors who work with students regarding whatever industry they're interested in working. And then we also have career counselors who help students that are in the exploring phase, maybe still deciding on a major or wanting to switch a major. And those advisors and counselors are available by appointment. We also host events. We have job fairs. We have two very large job fairs a year, and we have a number of smaller industry-focused job fairs. We host industry weeks. Those industry weeks are always really exciting. They're a different theme each semester. This semester, it's going to be Government Week, where we invite employers from the government industry, and we have different panels and workshops, and it's we engage students in different ways. So those are wonderful opportunities to take advantage of. And we also host numerous workshops throughout the year. We have the Handshake Job Database and many other resources. And I'm going to suggest that as I'm going through this slideshow that you use your cell phone and just take a photograph of the slide, because I have a number of URLs on these slides. And otherwise, I can also send people my slides if they request. So the job search is composed of 4 different phases. First is the resume and cover letter, then you're doing your research, there's networking involved, and then actually searching on job sites. On our website, we have a guide. It's called the Career Readiness Guide, and it's under the Career Resources tab. This guide has tons of information in it. We're currently actually revising the document, and it'll have even more information. You can use this document even after you graduate to assist you with your job search. There's information in here on how to write a resume, you know, cover letters, interviewing, informational interviewing, lots of different things. Then on our website, there's also another section where you can look at industry resume samples. So if you have a specific industry that, say for instance, accounting, if you'd like to see an accounting resume, you can go to this website and find resumes for specific industries. We have drop-in hours Monday through Friday from 1 to 3. Those appointments, those are brief appointments generally reserved for questions that do not require a lot of depth to answer. So for instance, resume critiques, if you needed a longer appointment to discuss some deeper subjects, then you would make an appointment with an advisor, industry advisor. The second part of your job search is developing a list of your target companies. So we suggest that you come up with a list of 50 to 100 companies that you might be interested in working for. Keep track of those companies in a spreadsheet. I remember years ago when I was applying for a job, I applied to so many jobs that I forgot who I applied to, and when one of the companies called me back, I almost said who, because I had forgotten that I had applied. So it's always good to keep track of the companies that you're applying for, and a spreadsheet is the best way to do it. You can keep track of their websites and any other information that you're trying to keep track of, and when you applied, etc. You should visit like company websites. You want to think about if you want to work for large companies, do you want to work for small companies? You could be a computer science major, and maybe you might want to work for a nonprofit company instead of a for-profit company. You should always look at the goals and the mission of the companies that you're interested in. You might also want to look and see if they have locations outside the US. So if you look at this graph, this schematic here, you'll see that 30% of jobs are found through job posting sites and a combination of on-campus recruiting. 70 to 80%, sometimes they say, of jobs are found through networking. So networking, you should never underestimate the value of networking. It's very important to build your relationships when you are looking for places to work and learning about positions. This is a typical, when people say networking, this is what usually comes to mind. As you think of a social event, this is pre-COVID, of course. You wouldn't see these kinds of networking events right now, but this is just generally what we think of when we say networking, but networking can actually take on many forms. So we ask you to think about it in terms of the 5 F's. Friends, family, fellow peers and alumni, faculty, and foundations and associations. So foundations and associations are when you join professional associations that are related to the industry that you want to work in or your major. And you want to think about who you know in these different groups, and where do the people in these different groups work? Who do they know? Is it possible that some of the people in these various groups might help you or assist you in your job search? So do not underestimate the value of your relationships. This is a list of some of the networking resources. In Handshake, there's a Q&A section that they've developed, and students agree to participate in this Q&A section. So you might say, for instance, ask, how could I get an internship at KPMG? Or has anyone had an internship at Google? Or any other place that you might think of. If you go into this Q&A section, you'll get a feel for the kinds of questions that students ask. And the questions in this section, it is public information, and the answers are public as well to the students that participate. You can also network at our career events. Like I said before, we have a number of events on campus, including those job fairs. And you can find out information about our events in Handshake, but I personally like to subscribe to our calendar. That we will not spam you. You'll get a notice about, I think it's once a week is when I get my notice of the events that are coming up. There's also student organizations and professional associations where you can take opportunities to network. Of course, you all know about social networks, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Then there's our employer events. Employers sponsor events at their locations, and they also have events at Mason. One of the things that you should do is when you're in Handshake, it's up in the top right corner of Handshake. When you log in, you'll see a drop-down menu under your name or your photo. And there's a section called Notification Preferences. So please go into those notifications and set them appropriately so that you don't miss things that you're interested in. There's been many times when I've interacted with students and they've said, well, I wish someone had told me about that event. And that's how you find out. You know, if you want to keep up to date on what's going on, set those notification preferences. There's also a GMU Alumni Association and LinkedIn, and you can look for alumni in that particular group. And you can also do informational interviewing. Informational interviewing sometimes is referred to as job shadowing. That's where you make a connection with someone in a company that you want to work for, and you ask them if you can talk to them about what it's like to work in their particular job or what it's like to work for that company. It's not an opportunity to go in and ask for a job, but rather it's an opportunity to learn what it's like to work for a particular organization. But in doing that, you may end up making some connections. So where can you find jobs? The first place we like to direct students is in Handshake. When you log into Handshake, it's handshake.gmu.edu is easier to remember. You use your Mason credentials to log in. You don't go in and try to create an account on the general Handshake website. Some people try to do that, and you're already in once you're a student. Then you can also learn about jobs through our career fairs that we sponsor. We also, this link will take you to career fair preparation, giving you some really good tips on how to prepare for our career fairs, how to have a personal pitch when you talk to employers. There's lots of different resources on this website, and we also host some great workshops. There are also industry-specific sites. Dice.com is one, higheredjobs.com. You can talk to, if you were to meet with one of our industry advisors, they could guide you to those types of sites. Plus, there's information about industry-specific sites on our website. There are also meta search engines, Career Shift, Indeed, Simply Hired, Monster. You may have already heard about those. And then social media like LinkedIn. LinkedIn also advertises jobs. There's another database called Passport Career, and this is, in order to use it, you have to use this registration key, GMU NIVER. If you lose this information is on our website. So don't worry about if you lose the information. You can always go back to our website. I would encourage all of you to review this section in Career Services, the Find a Job or Internship. It has a lot of information. It took me several years of working at Mason before I read all of our website, and there's just a lot of really wonderful information, very helpful information on the website. So now before classes start would be a really good time to get in and review these resources. This is a little ad for Passport. There are more than 75 countries, including the US, that advertise jobs in the Passport Career database. And so then the other thing that's important for you to know is about fraudulent employers. You may or may not have talked to friends and found out that someone was defrauded by an employer. When times are a little bit more challenging in terms of employment, sometimes these employers pop up more. Just like you know, inform yourself about phishing and spam, you should also keep informed about fraudulent employers. So the first thing to remember is if a position or a job seems too good to be true, then it probably is. If somebody offers you a phenomenal amount of money to do something where it doesn't quite seem like that amount of money matches the value of that job, then there's something going on. If anybody asks you for any type of financial information, never give that out. If someone asks you to send money, don't send money. Sometimes people will ask, they'll try to get access to your bank account. Don't give out your social security number to an employer when they ask, unless you actually been hired, of course, for the job. Then the other thing to watch for is someone may claim to work for a large employer, for instance, but look at their email address. Is it a Gmail or a Hotmail or a Yahoo? Does it not match what the actual domain name is of the employer? So watch out for those things. If a job has very little responsibilities or there's typos, you know, you can pretty much be suspect that that's not a legitimate job. There's a website here. Please photograph that. There is a document that gives a little bit more detail on our website about identifying fraud. And if you ever suspect something, please let us know right away. We do a very good job of screening our job postings, but we don't catch everything. There are thousands of jobs in Handshake, so you have to be on the alert for these kinds of things. Then also, our office is committed to supporting traditionally underrepresented groups in their career journey. We specifically recognize some of these populations: international students, LGBTQ students, students with disabilities, and undocumented students. If you would like to investigate more information about looking at a company's commitment to diversity, there's a very good article on our website. Take a photograph with a link. But some of the things that you should look for is, does the company, if the company says that they are a diverse hiring organization, do they demonstrate that? Take a look at their recruiting policies and procedures. Who comes to campus to recruit? Does their population reflect a diverse population? So there's a number of questions that you can ask yourself to see if a company is committed to diversity. Okay, then I wanted to point out, we do offer some courses in career services. I think most of them are 1 credit. There may be some 0 credits. I'm not sure if I have my information completely up to date on that. I apologize. But it's pretty much self-explanatory. There's this one, Decide, Confirm, and Majors for students who are still exploring or, you know, wanting to switch to a different major, but not really sure. Then there's a course on internship and career readiness preparation, an internship, a course that prepares you moving from college into a professional career. This is if you were wanting to go to graduate school. And then, of course, a professional skills development course. And you can also learn about those more on our website, and those are great courses as well. The last thing I would like to point out is that this is a list of our events for the fall. Right now, you're participating in JumpStart. So thank you, Mary Claire, for hosting the JumpStart program. Then next week, we have a part-time job fair. It's a virtual job fair. There's going to be about 50 employers participating, but you do have to register for it in advance. If you go to Handshake and just Google part-time job fair, you'll find the registration information, or you can also go to our website and check it out there as well under the event section. The one thing I will say is that when you register for our job fairs, we're using another platform for the virtual job fairs. So when you register, that's a commitment, and we expect that you will come to the job fair. If you, for some reason, decide that you're not going to come, then you need to, I believe it's unregister, so that you need to withdraw your registration. So your registration is a commitment. It's not like on Facebook when you see an event and you click the interested feature, you're actually saying that, yes, you will attend. We have a government week coming up. That's one of the industry weeks that I focused on. Next spring, we will have a different industry week. We also host resume clinics right before the career fair, and we invite employers to participate. So employers will review a student's resume, and they will provide you know, a critique for you so that you can make your resume look really good right before the fair. There's a workshop, Prepare for the Fair workshop coming up, Career Night and Career Fair. Career Night is another job fair that we have during the evening. And then you all might be very interested in this. On September 10th, we have a practice interview day, and we have invited employers to conduct virtual interviews. Everything is virtual right now because of the virus, but they will do a practice interview with you and provide feedback and let you know how you did. And there's no risk, but you get to talk with an actual employer and practice that interview and get some good feedback. but you do have to also register for this. So go to Handshake and Google or search on practice interview, and you'll get the information for that as well. Or you can also go to our events calendar on our website and find the link there. So that is about what I have for you. That's it. And if you all have any questions, you're invited to email me or whatever Mary Claire would like to do right now. We can answer questions as well.
We have about 5 minutes, so some questions did come through. I don't know that we'll get to everything, but Sasha, if you're ready, I think the first two are more geared towards you. A student wanted to know if they could do CPT even though it's not required by the academic department, or the course is not a requirement.
So it doesn't have to be a requirement for your degree, but if you can register for that course, and it counts for your as academic credit, at least one academic credit, then we will work with you to give you work authorization to complete that credit and work off campus as a requirement for that credit.
Thank you. I hope that helped. A second question is, if this student wants to know, if I work on campus and participate in CPT simultaneously as an undergrad, do I still have the limit of 20 hours per week?
Right now, it depends if it's a GRA or GTA position, as I described in my PowerPoint. If it's a GRA, GTA, you cannot combine them. But if it's just an on-campus position, then you can combine an on-campus position and curricular practical training, CPT. So because we count CPT as a for-credit class, and your work for the class counts as part of your work as a credit requirement. So yeah, you'll be able to do both, work on campus for 20 hours a week and do the credit requirement for the job. So, but GRA, GTAs are not allowed to do that because the provost's office does not allow students to seek outside employment.
If an employer sponsors a student, do they still need OPT?
I assume by saying sponsoring a student, if they get them H-1B, then that is a change of status. I assume they're talking about a change of status. Therefore, OPT is based on the F1. It's a benefit of the F1 status. If the employer sponsors you for H-1B, and you are awarded that new status, you don't need OPT. OPT is just for the F1 students.
That makes sense. And this last one, I believe, is more for Debbie. Debbie, I put the link for how students make an appointment in the chat. I'll go ahead and I'll do that again. But could you remind students what their options are for when they want to come meet with someone to discuss their resume or cover letter?
So we have drop-in hours 1 to 3 Monday through Friday. So you can I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit tongue-tied here. So it's 1 to 3 Monday through Friday for drop-in hours for resume critiques. You can also make appointments with industry advisors. We also will have the resume critique workshop right before our job fair in October. Is there anything else I didn't cover, Mary Claire?
And practice interview day, another student wanted to know if they would be notified by email. And per Debbie's suggestion, you check our event calendar, but you can also subscribe to the calendar. Is that true, Debbie?
Yeah, I was going to try to, let me see if I can show that where that is on our website really quick.
I'm on the event calendar now in a side window. So what I'll do is I'll put that in the chat. For people on the line, you can copy and paste links out of chat. So I invite you to do that while you watch Debbie.
Right. So if you all can see the screen, Under the events section, it's in very little letters here in the middle. You see subscribe. Subscribe to, you'll add your email, and then you'll get a weekly notification of our events. Somebody had also asked if they would be notified by email. We do email advertising as well. But if you're not a person that checks email regularly, make sure that you have those handshake notifications set up. Well, you should check your email regularly to see.
You really should. You
Yeah.
will get a lot of email, but there's a lot of helpful things in there.
Yes, yes.
Lastly, are we able to share, Debbie, your part of the slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I will pass those on. Should I pass those on to you, Mary Claire?
What we'll do is we'll ask for just a little bit of turnaround time and send an email out to all of the attendees next week with a copy of Debbie's slides. Those, we can share those more easily than Aleksandra's because of the changes that we noted. But Debbie's information will remain steady for, we anticipate, the remainder of the semester.
And
Okay.
here's the section that I was referring to with the students, find a job or internship. This is great. We have an international student section, information about diversity resources. Here's the industry specific resources. So it's a good starting point.
Absolutely, it is. Well, thank you everybody for participating today. And thank you to Debbie and Aleksandra for your really great resources and for your time in putting all this together. Students, look for that email follow-up, and I hope you have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right,
Have a good,
bye-bye.
have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.